how much does it actually cost to sell a house in Washington state? Let's find out. So, if you're thinking of selling your house, but you're not sure how much it actually costs, let's talk through all the known expenses and then we'll throw in some of the common unknowns so you have a general idea of how much it would cost to sell your home. We're going to base this all on the sales price of $800,000. Our first expense is excise tax, also known as REIT, which is real estate excise tax. It is a graduated system, meaning the first $525,000 or less is taxed at 1.1%. Between 525 and 1.525, you're taxed at 1.28%, and so on and so on. Here's the graph right here. Next up, you have realtor fees. Those can vary between 0% and 8%, 9%, 10%. It really does depend on the services offered by your realtor. Now, you don't have to hire a realtor to help you sell your home, and you also don't have to offer any compensation to the buyer's agent if you don't want to. But we're going to talk through some of those pros and cons here. So, if you want to sell your house for sale by owner, I want you to listen closely to this step because it might change your mind. National Association of Realtors on average say that you get 37% less for your home if you try to sell your home for sale by owner versus using a realtor. Now, this is coming from the National Association of Realtors. Obviously, they support you using a realtor, but the data is pretty clear. You will get less money for your home if you sell it for sale by owner. So let's take our scenario back of an $800,000 house and say you're going to get 37% less money for your house. If you were to sell that house for sale by owner, you'd be getting $300,000 less for your home. Let's go back to our talk about offering compensation to a buyer's agent. Why should you as the seller offer to pay for somebody else's agent? And I'm going to show you why I recommend it. It's not required, but it is my recommendation. I'm going to talk through some of this data that I've pulled from the Northwest MLS. This is data from Snohomish County homes sold in the last 6 months. Sellers that offered 3% compensation to a buyer's broker spent an average of 33 days on the market, and 78% of those homes sold for their asking price or more. Now, if you offered 2.5% compensation to the buyer broker, they spent an average of 31 days on the market, so not a huge difference there between 2.5% and 3%. And 71% of those homes sold for their asking price or more. Now, here's where you get a bigger difference. Now, I'm going to remind you again, these stats are for resale homes only, not any new construction. New construction is its own ball game here. So sellers that offered 2% compensation for a buyer broker spent an average of 51 days on the market, and only 61% of those homes sold for their asking price or more. So that's the data that I've come across. I typically recommend that a seller offers buyer broker compensation because of this data. So some other expenses we may come across. If you have a mortgage on your house or a second mortgage like a home equity line of credit or a reverse mortgage, those are going to need to be paid off at closing. In Washington, a title insurance policy typically costs between 0.5% and 1% of the purchase price of the home. Costs can vary depending on the property's value and some other factors, but that's just kind of a general idea. Title insurance protects the buyer and lender from financial risks related to a defective title. That's going to cost you around $2,000 for a house that's valued at $800,000. It shows that the seller has the legal right to sell the property, and it covers issues like divorce claims, fraud, legal issues, all related to transferring title. We have escrow fees. These are split in half between the buyer and the seller. So in our scenario here for a house for $800,000, that's around $1,200 you're going to pay for escrow. It's really important that this fee is cut in half and split equally. That way escrow, which is our neutral third party that handles documents with the county and manages funds, that they are not beholden to one party or another because they pay them more. That's why that fee is split in half. We also have recording fees. These are around $300, and that covers your recording document fees with the county. You also may have some prorated property tax. If you haven't paid your property taxes yet, that will need to be prorated for the time that you own the property. If you've already prepaid, you're going to get some money back for those prorated property taxes. There's some document prep fees. Those will run around $100. Mobile notary fees around $125. You don't have to use a mobile notary to sign your closing documents, but sometimes you may be traveling, you may be moving, you may already be in a different state, and it's not so easy to just simply hop in the car and head over to the escrow office. Our grand total so far is $68,000, the cost to sell your home. That's assuming a 3% buyer broker compensation, and that's assuming a 3% listing broker compensation Those numbers are negotiable and variable, but that is what I'm using here for our scenario. So $68,000 are expenses that we know. Now, here's some costs that we might have or we might not have. So these are things that you can add to the list if your house calls for it. So let's say we find a buyer who makes an offer on your home and they want a credit from you to help them pay for some of their closing costs. They can ask for that. That's a negotiable term, but that's something that you may be responsible for if you agree to it. I've seen anywhere from $500 to all the way up to $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, but that's a variable expense and it may or may not come up. There's also HOA transfer fees. If your home is in an HOA community, transfer of ownership between you and to the new buyer, you may be responsible for paying for those fees. I usually see them around $200 to $300. If you have any other liens on your property, like maybe unpaid child support, construction liens, HELOCs, or reverse mortgages, you're going to be responsible for paying for those at closing. There also may be a special assessment. If you live in an HOA, maybe the HOA 2 years ago replaced the roof, you had an assessment of $15,000 and you've paid off $5,000 so far, and you have a remaining balance of $10,000. That will need to get paid off at closing. And any other market preparation that you did to get your home ready for the market. Pressure washing, carpet cleaning, professional cleaning, painting, any sort of remodeling. These costs can vary greatly. So maybe between $500 and $15,000, $20,000, depending on how deep you go down the rabbit hole of remodeling. If the buyer requests any repairs during their home inspection process, you are going to be responsible for paying for those repairs. So maybe they ask for a new hot water heater to be installed, or maybe they ask for a broken wall heater to be replaced. Whatever those costs may be, that will be your responsibility. So prepare for that when you do your negotiation. And then we also have staging. If you hire a realtor that stages and includes that in their commission and their fees that they charge you, great. But sometimes they don't. Not every realtor stages, and not every realtor stages for free. You're going to want to find out if that is a service that your realtor offers, and if so, is that an expense that they cover, or is that an expense that you cover? Professional staging can run between $2,000 and $6,000, depending on how long that furniture is in your house and the size of your house. So that's it. Only $68,000 plus your mortgage payoff, any liens, and any expenses to get your house ready on the market, and some of our little unknown variables that I threw in there. So what do you think? Worth it to sell your house? If you're curious to find out how much money you could make off the sale of your house, let me know. I'd be happy to help. I'm located in Snohomish County in Washington State. Reach out to me if you're from anywhere in the state or anywhere else out of the state. Either I can help you or I can connect you with a realtor who can.